Hey guys! Tonight we're slipping behind the lacquered screens and golden curtains of a royal palace in Korea's Joseon Dynasty. Imagine the air thick with incense, the floor under you polished to a mirror-like shine, and every movement so silent you can hear the brush of silk on silk. You're not a noble or a king, though. You're one of the hundreds of women living in the court serving, waiting, watching, and when night falls, you don't get to stretch out and sigh into your pillow. You're about to try and sleep, sitting up, again. And yes, you probably won't survive this. Between the spine-numbing posture, the midnight duties, and the gossip gauntlet that is court life, you'd be lucky to last a week. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time down in the comments. I love seeing where and when people are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start the evening with the faint scent of lotus oil on your hands. Your last task of the day was helping the senior lady wash her hair, a process that takes hours, dozens of pins, and an entire bottle gourd of heated water. Your own hair is pinned in a neat top knot, stiff with resin, not a strand out of place. The last thing you want is a warning from the gungnyeo Debbie, the senior attendant, who seems to sleep with one eye open and a stick in her hand. You're in the inner court, inside the women's quarters of Gyeongbokgung Palace. It's the 17th century, and you're living by Confucian law, which might as well be the palace's true emperor. You follow a strict hierarchy, so strict that even your sleep posture is ranked. You're low in the system, maybe a matsuri, a water maid, or if you're lucky, a gokseemi who runs errands for higher-ranking ladies. Either way, you serve before you rest. Palace life is a labyrinth of whispers and schedules. You rise before the men, serve in silence, bow more times in one day than a modern person might in a year. And you sleep only when the women above you say it's time. Which, by the way, is never early. So now, as the lanterns dim and the sound of drums from the outer court fades, you shuffle into the sleeping chamber. This room is shared. There's no privacy, not even a curtain between you and the others. Everyone lays out identical padded mats on the polished floor called yo. But here's the catch. You are not allowed to fully lie down. Not yet. Maybe not. Ever. Instead, you tuck yourself into a seated position, legs folded beneath you or off to the side if your knees are aching. You wear a thin hanbok layer to sleep, because elaborate formal wear isn't just for the day. Even your sleeves whisper modesty. And then you wait. Some women try to cheat. They slump a little, lean their heads against the wall, maybe sneak in a rolled cloth to support the neck. Others tie their hair ribbons in ways that keep their heads tilted just right, like soft, sneaky scaffolding. Why the sleep position? It's partly about control, partly about appearances, and definitely about Confucian propriety. Lying down was associated with indulgence, laziness, and even promiscuity. It was considered unseemly for unmarried or lower-ranked women to sprawl like queens. You were meant to rest, not luxuriate. Historians still argue whether this practice was universal or mostly symbolic, whether the upright sleep was strictly enforced every night, or just part of ceremonial expectations. But first-hand accounts and rulebooks hint that upright sleeping wasn't rare. It was a norm, especially among those who served the queen or the crown princess. You shift slightly, adjusting your weight off one aching hip. You're not alone. Everyone in the room is doing the same slow, creaky shuffle. The wood under your mat makes a sound like sighing. Outside, a court bell rings the third watch of the night. You still have 4 hours before sunrise. One of the other girls begins to nod off in the wrong posture. You hear a quick hiss from across the room. She straightens instantly, eyes wide, like a cat who just got squirted with water. The unofficial watchdogs are always alert. Older ladies who remember being beaten with bamboo rods for the same mistake. There's no clock in this room, of course. Just the steady pace of palace time. You measure it in incense sticks, drum beats, and the soft scraping of sandals outside when the guards rotate shifts. And yet, despite the stiffness, the control, the suffocating silence, there's a strange rhythm to it, a kind of surrender. Your back aches, but your mind floats. You start noticing small things, the tiny patterns in the wooden beams above, the way one lantern flickers in a draft no one can feel, the snore-like hum of someone breathing through a cold. There's a fringe belief, probably made up by one of the more mischievous gokseemi, that if you manage to sleep upright long enough, you'll start dreaming while awake. They say you can enter a trance where the palace melts away, and you walk through endless cherry trees, barefoot, weightless. You try it now. It doesn't work. You mostly feel like your spine is being punished for something your ancestors did. Still, the minutes pass, and no one yells at you. And your eyelids grow heavier. For now, that's a victory. Your legs are beginning to tingle. Not the pleasant kind of tingle, like when you're curled up in a soft blanket on a rainy morning. No. This is the UHO kind. Your feet have stopped sending messages to your brain, and your knees are plotting a quiet rebellion. You shift, quietly, subtly, the way a squirrel might inch away from a predator, slow, calculated, hoping the room's senior attendant doesn't notice. This is a upright sleep at its finest. Now that you've been in the palace long enough to know which floorboards creak and how to keep your sleeves from rustling, you've picked up some tricks. Everyone does. You're part of an unspoken sleep hack society. Some girls stuff small embroidered cushions under their knees to stop the worst of the numbness. Others twist the ends of their belts to wedge between shoulder and cheek for neck support. A few even pretend to meditate, which technically counts as honorable wakefulness. But let's be honest. They're snoring with their eyes half open. The official reason for this posture: dignity, moral discipline, restraint. Upright sleeping is a form of character training, supposedly. After all, you're in the Joseon Dynasty, where sleeping with too much comfort could suggest looseness. Upright posture meant upright virtue. The body trained the soul. Or so the men who wrote the rules claimed. Historians still debate whether this practice filtered down from noble women to servants, or if it was the other way around. Some suggest that queen consorts and high-ranking concubines insisted on it publicly but collapsed in private onto plush bedding once their attendants were dismissed. There are letters and court logs that hint at secret napping dens hidden behind folding screens, where even the most severe ladies gave in to gravity. But, for now, you don't get that luxury. You're just trying not to tip over. The palace isn't quiet anymore. It's late, but some parts of the court never sleep. Through the thin walls, you hear the thump of late-night carpenters repairing a broken hinge in the scholar's wing. Somewhere, a cat yowls like it's just been asked to recite the Confucian Analects. You wonder if it, too, is sitting upright out of respect. Inside your room, there's a soft shuffle. Someone near you has brought out a moktuk, a small wooden percussion instrument, shaped like a fish. She's gently tapping it in a slow rhythm, not loudly, just enough to help keep herself awake, or lull herself into some weird meditative trance, where discomfort becomes a distant sound. There are stories passed in whispers, never written down, that palace women in the queen's service used to compete over who could stay upright the longest. Some fell asleep like statues, heads never tipping, backs perfectly straight. These women became legends in the narrow world of palace life. One supposedly woke up without realizing she'd even dozed. Another stayed upright for 3 full nights before collapsing and being quietly retired to temple service, where at least the floor was forgiving. You try leaning against the wooden post beside you just a little, it helps. But the real skill is in what you do with your mind. So you let it wander. You imagine yourself outside the palace gates, on the river bank, watching paper lanterns float past in the dark. Or maybe you're walking through the marketplace, where sleeping is simple, just a mat, a blanket, and no rules about whether your spine is touching the floor. You imagine sinking down onto that imaginary mat and drifting off for real. But then a sudden movement jolts your attention back. One of the newer attendants, poor thing, maybe 13, has nodded off to hard. Her forehead smacks against her own knee with a quiet but undeniable thump. You wince in sympathy. An older court lady gives her a quick nudge with the tip of her slipper, sharp and silent. No words are exchanged, just a shared look, the sort that carries centuries of etiquette in one eyebrow raise. Moments like these aren't exactly fun, but they're weirdly bonding. You're all in the same strange half-sleeping boat. There's a grim camaraderie to it. You exchange glances in the dim light, little sighs, tiny eyebrow shrugs that say yup. Still vertical. Earlier today, one of the senior ladies told a story during laundry duty. A goksimi once tried to sneak a lie-down nap during a snowstorm, thinking no one would come check. The queen mother herself did an unannounced walk-through and found the girl sprawled on the floor, like she was posing for a poetry scroll. She was sent to scrub ice off the stone paths every morning for a month. Whether it's true or not doesn't really matter. The lesson sticks out in the palace. Appearance is everything. Even your sleep has to be dignified, intentional, proper. And while it sounds impossible, your body is slowly adapting. It doesn't like it, but it's learning. You found that if you breathe just right deep from the stomach, you can let your torso rest against its own breath. Your arms know where to fold. Your head finds its own tilt. Your knees still hate you, but a little less than before. Some say that palace women who mastered upright sleep lived longer, or at least seemed more serene. Others say they just lost the ability to recognize exhaustion anymore. Either way, you're becoming one of them. Quiet, upright, awake, and somehow, barely asleep. You don't know how long it's been. Time in the palace isn't measured by clocks. It's counted in rituals, drumbeats, the length of a candle, the cooling of tea. Someone shifts nearby and mumbles a half-dreamt proverb. Someone else sneezes daintily and buries it in her sleeve. Your eyelids drift lower, and you don't fight it, not anymore. Maybe tonight, you'll master it. Upright sleep, perfect poise. Maybe you'll even dream of being in a different world, one with mattresses. There's a soft creak in the hallway, not the loud kind that startles you, but the kind that tells you someone's walking barefoot, carrying a tray, and trying very hard not to wake the already barely sleeping. You don't open your eyes, just let your ears tune in. Another late-night errand is underway. The clink of a ceramic teacup, the faint rustle of robes. These are the midnight rituals of the court ladies. No matter how tired you are, no matter how well you've managed to perch, in your upright sleep stance, you're never really off duty. When the queen stirs, someone stirs with her. When a crown princess needs tea, or her foot gets cold, or she wants to recite a poem to the moon at 3 a.m., you're up tonight. You're lucky enough not to be that someone, but someone else is. You hear her now soft footsteps gliding over polished wood, her shadow briefly interrupting the light from the paper lantern hanging outside. She disappears into the next chamber, a single candle in hand, delivering something delicate and likely unnecessary. Back in your room, no one says a word, but everyone is listening. This isn't just about obedience, it's also about information. In the women's quarters, knowledge is currency. Who received what favor? Who tripped over their hem? Who got caught with a love poem folded into their laundry? All this determines your future here. More than any merit, historians say the Joseon court was a labyrinth of rules. But what really kept it running was the labyrinth inside that labyrinth. The social ballet of the gungnyeo, or court women, each one ranked according to a dizzying hierarchy. From the lowly water maids to the sanggung high-ranking matrons, who wore their status like a second skin. And nighttime, ironically, is when this power structure becomes most visible. Because that's when people make mistakes. There's always someone who forgets to tuck her belt correctly, or who lets her skirt sweep the ground, a forbidden gesture of looseness. Another lady might cough too loudly or get up too quickly, revealing just how unasleep she really was. One wrong sound, one poorly timed shuffle, and you're whispered about for weeks. That's why many of the older women perfected the art of sleep gossip, soft conversations under their breath exchanged across shared mats. You listen. Of course you always do. Tonight, you catch snatches. Said she dropped the comb on purpose. No, it was the white cat. I swear. Her mother's cousin was in the kitchen guard, remember? The sound of whispered speculation is almost soothing. It keeps your mind from focusing on the fact that you haven't moved your legs in an hour. You flex your toes inside your socks. Just a little. Enough to remind them you're still in charge. Someone nearby reaches into her sleeve and pulls out a tiny parcel. You squint not to obviously and catch the glint of dried ginger root. One of the oldest tricks in the book, chewing ginger. At night is said to help keep you alert and reduce swelling in the joints. It's not allowed, technically, but almost everyone does it. The real trick is not getting caught. And speaking of forbidden tricks, let's talk about the pillow. You're not supposed to have one, at least not in the traditional sense. A proper Joseon lady doesn't sprawl, after all, so soft headrests are frowned upon. But some women sneak in neck cradles made from folded cloth or carved wood. One girl once smuggled in a hollow ceramic pillow, claiming it was for posture training. Nobody believed her, but the higher-ups let it slide because her aunt was married to an influential scholar. Sleep accessories are a battleground. Even the chima, your outer skirt, can be rolled just so, giving you a hidden cushion if you're clever about it. But the real elite trick, scented sleeves. Some of the sanggung dab a drop of flower oil inside their wrist cuffs. When sleep becomes unbearable, they breathe in the scent clove, plum blossom, sometimes even cinnamon bark, and it settles their nerves. It's not much, but it's something. You've tried it once, a gift from an older attendant who's since been transferred to the Queen Dowager's residence. It smelled like warm tea and wood smoke. You still think of her when you can't sleep tonight. Your scent is plain rice starch, comforting in its own way. You shift again. Your spine clicks. Someone coughs behind their sleeve. Outside, the wind stirs the paper walls. You can hear a faint rustle from the royal gardens, likely a night guard checking on the koi pond. You wonder if the fish sleep. Probably not, sitting up. Then comes the soft click of the gate latch. Not the big palace gate, just the small one. That leads to the queen's inner chamber. Someone's gone in. That means there's a request. You brace yourself. If she asks for her favorite pin or a warm foot wrap, someone will have to fetch it from the storage room. And if the assistant in charge is slow, or stumbles, or answers in the wrong tone, well, you've seen worse punishments for smaller offenses. Luckily, the door closes again. No footsteps come. Crisis averted for now. You try to sleep again. It's easier now. Maybe because your body is getting used to it. Or maybe because your brain has decided this is as good as it's going to get. You rest your chin just slightly on your shoulder, in the soft dip where bone meets fabric. You feel the warmth of the person sleeping near you, not too close, not too far. A shared stillness. The room settles. The air cools slightly. The candles burn low. And even though you're seated, even though the floor beneath you is hard and the rules are harder, something inside you lets go. You're not sleeping. Not quite. But you're drifting. Upright. Your knees have passed the point of feeling. That's a good sign or a very bad one. Either way. You're in it now. It's the dark belly of night. The kind of hour when even the crows in the rafters have stopped rustling and the palace itself seems to be holding its breath. The only sound is the occasional snap of bamboo from the outer garden, where some unlucky guard is trying to stay awake in the cold. You imagine him pacing back and forth under the moonlight, wrapped in thick robes, dreaming of hot soup. Meanwhile, you're here, still upright, still awake-ish, and somehow, you've come to accept it. This is how you sleep now. Or, more precisely, how you don't. And you're not alone. The truth no one tells you when you enter the palace is how insomnia becomes a job requirement. It isn't just the upright posture. It's the anxiety, the layers of formality. The fact that any moment you could be summoned to fetch a shawl, or explain why someone's embroidery thread has gone missing. There's even a phrase at court. Ladies whisper sometimes. One eye open, one ear open. It's a joke, sort of, but also not. And the toll, though, it's real. Some women lose weight from sheer nervous energy. Others get the infamous palace migraines, a term never used in public, but passed down in folded notes and muttered warnings. They say you can tell who's been in the court too long by the lines on her face, not from age, but from clenching her jaw every time someone clears their throat in a tone that might be calling her name. You've seen it happen. There was a girl last month who fainted mid-service, right in the middle of a formal tea setting. She collapsed, hands still cupped together like a porcelain doll. They said it was female frailty, but everyone knew it was just a year of upright sleep, skipped meals, and relentless formality finally catching up. Historians have tried to piece together just how harsh these routines were, but records are blurry. You won't find pages in royal annals complaining about sleep posture. Instead, you get euphemisms. She bore her duties with serenity, or her comportment was tireless. The closest you get to a real admission is in some of the Queen Dowager's private letters, where she casually mentions that one of her attendants fell ill from overzeal and posture. Translation: the girl tried hard to stay upright and ended up horizontal in the worst way. And then there's the strange, quiet politics of pain within the hierarchy of women. Sickness becomes suspect. You can't just say you're tired. Fatigue is weakness, and weakness smells like opportunity to the women climbing the ranks. There are whispers of court ladies faking resilience, refusing food, drinking vinegar to suppress appetite just to maintain appearances. You start to realize that health in the court is rarely about the body, it's about the image. Some women try to find remedies. The favored ones get access to the royal apothecary, where powdered deer antler and lotus seeds are brewed into calming tonics. But most of you make do. You chew roasted jujube seeds. You recite mantras under your breath. One woman even keeps a beetle shell in her sleeve, convinced that the crunch of it between her fingers helps her stay sane. You, for now, rely on pressure points. There's one behind your ear that you press every few minutes, another between your thumb and forefinger. The old sanggung swears that they help keep your blood flowing. Whether it's science or superstition, you don't care, it helps. And yet, despite all this, something else has started to creep in. Strange pride. Because even through the discomfort and deprivation, you're doing it. You've made it through the hardest part of the night. You've balanced duty and dignity. You've learned how to keep your spine straight and your thoughts from spiraling. And in a weird way, you've bonded with the others, that girl next to you who lent you her ginger root last week. You've started to breathe in rhythm with her. You both shift at the same time now. You both know that the floor gets colder around the fourth watch. You both looked up last night when the queen's window flickered at an odd hour. There's an intimacy to shared sleeplessness. No one talks about it, but you feel it in the air. And that's when it happens. A cough, too loud, from the next room. It's followed by a thud, a scramble, and then footsteps. Everyone in your chamber freezes. Was it the crown princess again? She's known for her strange night habits, wandering dreams, sudden poetry recitations, the occasional feigning spell that requires a fuss of attendants and a change of incense. Or worse. Is it the queen? You all sit straighter, if that's even possible. Your knees protest. Your spine hums. You suppress a groan and instead make your face smooth, unreadable. But nothing happens. Just the sound of a sliding door closing, soft voices, then silence again. False alarm. But your body won't relax now. This is the real exhaustion, not the aching joints or sleeplessness, but the way your nervous system is always half-lit, flickering, waiting for the next signal. A cough, a name, a rustled dot, and still, somehow, your mind begins to soften, because the body, no matter how tormented, is a creature of habit. Even this becomes a rhythm. You find yourself drifting, not falling, but floating on a strange plateau of half-rest, the kind only palace women know. You don't dream, not yet, but you think about dreaming. And for now, that's close enough. The lanterns are nearly out, just a few stubby candles flicker from the corner shelves, casting long, sleepy shadows across the lacquered walls. Their wax is melted into pools and cooled again into soft ripples. You're still sitting upright, barely. Your back now curved in a way that would have earned you a scolding an hour ago, but at this point, no one has the energy to correct posture. Not even the posture enforcers. This is the final stretch, the deep night hour, right before the first call of the palace rooster. That bird, clearly bribed or possessed somehow, knows exactly when to crow. Always 10 seconds before your eyes begin to flutter shut for good. But not yet. He's still dreaming of rice grains and strutting. You've survived another upright night. Across the room, one of the senior ladies has leaned slightly against the wall. Just a breath of weight, not enough to call reclining. She's earned it, they say. 3 decades in the palace, lost to fingernails to embroidery work, one sister to smallpox, and her chance at marriage to royal service. But she's never once laid flat. That's her legend. And tonight, no one will question it. Meanwhile, there are others who've broken the rules. Let's talk about them. You've heard the stories, passed in soft whispers during laundry duty or while boiling millet for breakfast. The pillow crimes, as the girls jokingly call them. Moments when someone cracked under pressure, crept behind a folding screen, and dared just for 5, 10, maybe 20 blessed minutes to lie flat. One girl hid a folded bedding mat behind a scroll shelf. She claimed she was organizing inventory, but her crease-marked cheek betrayed her. Another stuffed her robe with rice husks to create a makeshift cushion. It rustled with every movement. She lasted 2 nights before a jealous peer reported her. But the boldest? A gawk-seamy who snuck into an unused bridal suite and fell asleep on the guest platform. She even stole a sachet of lavender to complete the fantasy. When found, she claimed she had been testing the bedding for structural weaknesses. The official report read, overzealous in her duties. She was transferred to temple work in exile. But one was soft mats. And then there are the quiet rebels. Not the bold, rule-breaking types, but the slow subverters. Women who tilted their heads too far on purpose, who arranged their skirts just so, cushioning their thighs with extra folds, who mastered the art of micro-napping with their eyes open, counting breaths instead of sheep. You realize as you look around that every woman here has her own secret, her own method of surviving the night. Historians often describe the palace as a machine, precise, hierarchical, stifling, but you've come to understand it more as a garden, tightly pruned, yes, but still full of slow-growing rebellions. Ivy creeping under painted beams, moss underfoot, women learning how to bend the rules just enough not to break. Even the queen once hinted at it. She spoke, once, during a moon-viewing ceremony, about a dream she'd had where everyone in the palace floated above their sleeping mats like petals on water. The servants tried to write it off as poetic musing, but the court women exchanged glances. We know what that means, they thought. Even the queen is tired. The candle closest to you stutters, flares once, and dies. Someone exhales. Someone else cracks her knuckles, subtle and slow, like wood creaking in the cold. The room feels softer now, not because it is, but because morning is close. And with morning comes movement. You won't lie down, not ever, but you will get to stretch. You'll rise and pretend your joints aren't creaking. You'll splash water on your face from a jade basin, paint on that composed, serene expression, and become invisible again, just another perfectly upright figure moving between walls of silk and incense. But you'll carry this night with you. All of it. The whispering shadows, the near tips into sleep, the ginger in your sleeve, the sideways glances that said, I see you, still upright, still here. You survived, and in your own quiet way. You resisted just enough to keep your spine intact, your spirit just a little crooked. Like the edge of a well-worn fan. Now comes the drumbeat, distant at first, like a heartbeat echoing through the palace. The fourth watch is ending. In moments, the sky will lighten, and even though you haven't truly slept, your body will pretend it has. It always does. You allow yourself a final stretch, a slight arch of the back, a blink, a silent prayer to whoever invented stretchable silk. You think of the girl next to you, the one with the tiny beetle shells she crushes in her fingers like a stressed stone. She's asleep now, upright, a single tear dried on her cheek. Maybe it's from exhaustion, or maybe it's a dream. You decide to give yourself one. You close your eyes and picture it, a field, empty of obligation, a flat pillow. A nap so deep you wake up not knowing your name, but not yet. First, there's breakfast, and duty, and another night to prepare for still. As the room begins to stir, you hold that image in your mind like a talisman folded, soft. Impossible. Maybe one night you'll lie flat. Maybe. But for now, you sit tall, and you endure. Asterisk. So now, with the sky above Joseon just beginning to turn that soft, sleepy gray, let yourself rest. You've made it through the impossible. Spine straight, eyes heavy, heart quietly defiant beneath those layers of silk and protocol. The palace fades now. The chatter softens. The rules loosen their grip just enough to let you drift. The floor beneath you cools. The breath in your chest evens out. Every whisper you heard tonight dissolves into the air like incense. You've done enough. You are enough. Let your thoughts slow. Like the ripple of candlelight across lacquered wood, let your imagination wander back through those shadowy halls. But this time, you are a guest, not a servant. You carry no trays. You obey no bells. The queen sleeps. The court ladies sleep. Even the watchful senior matron, so sharp-eyed in the day, has allowed her head to tilt, ever so slightly. And you can rest now. Your breath grows long and low. The stiffness in your back softens. The upright posture, so strict before, becomes an afterthought, a suggestion, a memory. You are floating now. Safe. Still. Weightless in your own quiet dream. The palace slips into silence and takes you gently with it.